Have you ever wondered how those really captivating short films, the ones that launch careers or maybe even snag an Oscar, how they manage to tell such a complete, impactful story in, well, so little time?
It's quite something, isn't it?
It really is an
Yep.
incredible feat of narrative precision. So today we're doing a deep dive into the foundational principles and maybe practical techniques behind writing truly impactful short films.
Yeah, we're drawing from a really solid expert guide on this.
Exactly. Our mission really is to unearth those essential nuggets of knowledge, the things that turn a good idea into a powerful calling card.
And that's precisely why this skill is so critical. I mean, think about it. In Hollywood, it is far, far easier to get a short film viewed than to get a feature-length screenplay read. It just is.
That's a huge advantage.
Huge. Short films are these potent little packages, They've launched careers for absolute legends like Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, Coppola, George Lucas, Christopher Nolan.
The list goes on.
It really does.
Yeah.
And even more modern talents, people like Trey Parker and Matt Stone or Stephen Daldry, they got their start demonstrating their storytelling chops in this compact form. They really opened doors.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. Why are short films such a masterclass in storytelling? First off, maybe we should clarify something.
Good idea.
This deep dive, it's really about the screenplay, specifically for synchronous sound narrative short films.
Right, the story-driven ones with sound and dialogue, not like experimental stuff or docs necessarily.
Exactly. The core here is getting into the nuts and bolts of scripting, the principles, the techniques that make a short film really sing on the page. It's not a filmmaking manual, how to point a camera.
And what's essential to understand, I think, is that the guide we're looking at really emphasizes seeing a film over just reading a script. Makes sense?
Totally.
So that's why so many of his examples are from commercially released shorts, ones you can often actually watch, like Scorsese's Life Lessons or The Red Balloon classic, or Occurrence at Owl Creek. Even Billy Bob Thornton's, some folks call it a sling blade, started as a short.
Right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And you see shorts more and more at festivals, obviously, but also getting picked up by major cable channels. Sundance, IFC, HBO, Showtime. They're much more accessible now.
It's fascinating, though, because despite being shorter, writing them is actually incredibly challenging.
Oh, definitely.
It's kind of like how, short story writers might look at novelists and envy that huge canvas they have. Short film writers have to pack everything, character, theme, plot into this tiny framework. But it still has to feel satisfying, complete. It's like, I don't know, trying to fit a novel into a pamphlet. A serious challenge.
Precisely. It forces this, ruthless economy. You have to cut everything non-essential. And what's interesting, I think, is that this brevity also allows them to tackle themes that mainstream features might shy away from. Maybe they're afraid of alienating a broad audience,
But what kind of themes?
Yeah. Well, think about how short films have dealt really effectively with things like racism in Black Rider, or homelessness in The Lunch Date, or even childhood homosexuality in Trevor. They aren't afraid to make us squirm a bit, explore difficult stuff.
And those challenging themes often reveal deeper truths, don't they? Of the human experience.
Yeah.
So regardless of the subject, at their core, all stories kind of tap into something fundamental about us. Let's connect this to the bigger picture.
Fair.
Why are stories, essential human acts? The source suggests stories help us make sense of the world, right? Define struggles, unseen forces.
That's a really profound point. We even apparently invent details sometimes just to make stories work better. Yeah, because if the stories don't make sense,
Our world doesn't make sense.
and in drama specifically, it boils down to two key rules, fundamentally. There has to be a want, what a character desires,
Okay.
and there has to be conflict. Without those two pushing against each other, you just don't get tension. The story falls flat.
And film, as an art form, it has its own unique demands that really emphasize this. Unlike reading a book, where you get inside a character's head.
Right, lots of internal monologue.
In film, audiences are viewing. They're not reading pages of thoughts. So screenwriters have to externalize feelings, thoughts, everything through authentic behavior and action.
Exactly.
You can't just rely on, narration or characters talking directly to the audience or long speeches like in a play. It really is show, don't tell. And for shorts, that's doubly critical.
It is. And the real insight there isn't just, avoid voiceovers. It's understanding that letting the audience infer things through action, that creates a much more powerful, engaging experience.
Because they're participating.
Exactly. They're putting the pieces together, not just being fed information. Action drives, like 99 out of 100 film stories. Dialogue is usually subsidiary. Telling the audience everything just lessens the impact. It makes for a boring tale, frankly. Good actors. They convey that inner life through feelings, expressions, actions, reactions. The rule is simple. Show, don't tell.
Okay, so this emphasis on action, on showing, what does that mean for the audience's experience emotionally? You said every successful film gives an emotional experience, makes us laugh, cry.
Both, hopefully.
Right, audiences crave that connection, and emotion is the quickest way to expose a character. But in a short, where time is so limited, how do writers make sure that emotional hit lands quickly?
That's a great question. Because you don't have 2 hours for a slow burn, do you?
Not at all.
It often comes down to immediacy. How fast can you tap into a universal feeling? Fear, joy, anticipation, whatever it is. It's about crafting a visceral experience. Almost like, painting with emotion.
Painting with emotion. I like that.
Yeah. Humor, surprise, suspense. They're all tools to build that tension quickly. Films often use emotions to lead us to ideas. It makes cinema this profoundly visceral art form.
Yeah.
And great writers, they plot an emotional arc for the audience through the whole film, not just the characters.
They're thinking about how they want us to feel.
Every step of the way. How do you want the audience to feel right now? And now, and now. It's a journey for them too.
This focus on emotion and showing through action leads us right into crafting compelling characters. In novels, you get detailed descriptions.
Pages sometimes?
Yeah. And in theater, maybe more dialogue reveals character. But in film, characters have to ring true through what they do, their actions, their behavior.
That's right. The saying goes, characters are only truly revealed in action under stress. Conflict strips away the masks, the defenses.
Okay.
It shows you who someone really is. Think about Lester Burnham in American Beauty. He's revealed by his crazy actions, right? Not just what he says.
Definitely.
Or Peter in Election Night. He makes this moral stand in a very short time.
Yeah.
And that defines him completely.
So one of the most powerful tools for understanding character, according to the source, is this difference between a protagonist's conscious want and their unconscious need.
Ah, yes. Want versus need. Crucial.
The want is the conscious goal, what they're actively chasing in the story. But the need, that's deeper, an unconscious force driving them.
Exactly. It's often something they aren't even aware of, but it's what they truly require for growth, or maybe even survival, emotionally speaking.
So how do writers use that distinction, especially with limited time in a short?
Well, that's where the real dramatic magic often happens. The tension between what a character thinks they want and what they subconsciously need.
Okay.
When their want clashes directly with their need, or when getting the want actually prevents them fulfilling the need. That's where you find the really deep, resonant stories.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about life lessons again. The artist, Lionel Dobie, he consciously wants Paulette, his assistant. That's his goal.
Right.
But his deeper need, it's actually emotional turmoil, chaos, because that's what fuels his painting. He needs the drama.
So he doesn't really want her, not in a healthy way.
Not for her own sake, no. His need for artistic fuel overrides everything. Or in Jane Campion's short Peel, the father, Tim, he wants to prove a point to his son about throwing orange peels out the window.
Okay.
But his underlying need is to free himself from this ongoing rivalry he has with his sister. The peels are just the surface issue.
Interesting.
And one more, the man in the Brooks Brothers shirt. Vicky initially wants to just exploit this salesman for a story she's writing. That's her stated goal. But she needs to confront her own confusion about her desires. Does she want bourgeois security or bohemian excitement? The encounter forces her to face that.
So sometimes the need is driving things, even if the want isn't super clear?
Absolutely. Sometimes, like with Rick in Casablanca, his conscious want is maybe a bit murky at first, but his underlying need to reconnect with his idealism maybe is what's really driving the story forward. It requires digging deep into the character's psychology. What do they want out of life? What are their dreams? Why aren't they getting there?
So building that three-dimensional persona, it's more than just the want and need, right?
Yeah.
They need emotions, attitudes, beliefs, a backstory, quirks.
All of it, to make them feel real, alive.
And writers, we draw from our own experiences, sure, but ultimately we have to shape the characters to serve the story's themes. So what are some practical steps? How do you really flesh them out beyond just a few lines?
Well, it can be incredibly helpful to actually write out a character biography.
Like a separate document.
Yeah, exactly. Almost like you're building a mini person before they even step onto the page. outline their physical appearance, sure,
Yeah.
but also their sociology, their environment, class, education, stuff like that.
Okay.
And then their psychology, temperament, ambitions, fears, complexes. This helps you understand their motivations really deeply, not just on the surface.
And attitudes.
Attitudes, yeah, like a hard-boiled cop or a cynical politician. These can be shown visually, but then give them complexity, give them a second side, something unexpected that avoids making them just a stereotype.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've talked about story principles, crafting characters. But now, how do you structure their journey? Especially in a short. This brings us to the narrative arc. The blueprint. Elia Kazan called a script architecture, not literature.
That's such a great quote for this.
Yeah.
Especially for shorts. It is architecture.
So the structure connects the beginning, middle, end. Plot arranges the specific events. Good structure needs what? A problem at the start.
Yep. A dramatic problem right up front. Then rising action in the middle, building intensity.
To a climax and resolution.
Right.
It gives the story a backbone, stops it from just wandering.
Exactly.
And in short films, that setup, introducing the hero, the problem, the world, it has to be incredibly swift, like super direct.
Oh, absolutely. For a 10-minute film, you might be talking the first couple of pages max.
Wow. That really forces economy, doesn't it?
It does. Think about life lessons again. Lionel's character, the art show dilemma, it's all established under the opening credits. Using visuals, quick snippets, or living in oblivion, setting up things like the bad milk or Nicole's mother really naturally in the early scenes, knowing they'll pay off later. Even Gridlock uses a simple wrong number call to set things up for a quick payoff. It's about getting straight to the point, but still being intriguing.
And that rapid setup leads right into the inciting incident, the catalyst, right? The spark.
The moment that forces the conflict out into the open, it demands the hero respond, sets them on their path, can't go back.
Does it have to be a big explosion?
Not necessarily. It can be subtle. It could even happen off-screen, and we learn about it through exposition, like in Franz Kafka's It's a Wonderful Life. The key is, it's the moment the story really kicks into gear. The protagonist's journey starts right there.
Okay, so once they're on that path, the story builds through developing conflict, rising action. The hero pursues their goal, but things get in the way. Obstacles.
Escalating obstacles, and varied ones, ideally.
Right. So what kind of obstacles work best in shorts, given the time crunch?
Well, you've got your classic toolkit. There's the obvious antagonist, another character actively working against your hero, like Dr. Schooner in The Appointment of Dennis Jennings.
Okay. The villain, basically.
Sort of, yeah. But don't forget physical obstructions, literal barriers, walls, rivers, soldiers, like in Occurrence at Owl Creek. Often, though, especially for shorts, because they can be quite internal, the most compelling are inner obstacles, the character's own stuff, fears, prejudices, emotional baggage.
Like Lionel's jealousy in Life Lessons.
Exactly. Or Teresa's fear of marriage in The Dutch Master. Or Kafka's writer's block. That's internal conflict made external.
And then there's one more type.
Yeah, mystic forces. Things like fate, chance, the paranormal. Or really profound moral choices. Like Peter's agonizing decision in election night. That's a huge obstacle for him.
So for a short film writer, the trick isn't to cram all of these in.
No, definitely not. Pick the most potent one or two. The ones that truly test your character's core, their want versus their need, maybe, and escalate them quickly. Each confrontation creates a little crisis, right? Builds tension, forces decisions. That's what makes compelling stories.
Okay, these crises build, and that brings us to plotting. Let's just clarify. Plot versus story. They're not the same thing.
Crucial distinction. Often confused.
Story is just the sequence, right? This happened, then this happened.
And then that happened.
Yeah.
Chronology.
But plot, that's a series of interrelated actions driven by conflict, purposefully leading somewhere. Climax, resolution.
Exactly. Plot is story engineered for maximum impact. And it's made interesting by those obstacles we just talked about. It's how you reveal character under stress.
Yeah.
How you force emotions out into the open.
Without a well-crafted plot, a story just feels
aimless. Like, why am I watching this? What's the point? Plot gives the audience that reason to keep watching, to care about the outcome.
And within that plot structure, there's often this powerful turning point around the middle, the midpoint.
Ah, the midpoint, yeah. Very useful device.
This is where the story can suddenly reverse direction, or maybe offer a kind of fake solution.
Exactly, a pseudo-solution. It seems like the initial problem is solved, but oops, now there's a new, bigger, more complex issue. Or the goal changes entirely. It often feels like a point of no return for the hero.
Throws things into a new gear.
Totally. Like in Franz Kafka's It's a Wonderful Life, Kafka finally beats his writer's block.
Yay! Problem solved.
Only to immediately face this new, terrifying threat from Will and the Knifeman. The stakes just shot way up.
Okay.
Or in The Man in the Brooks Brothers shirt, her initial dilemma gets resolved mid-film, but that resolution itself creates a whole new set of complex consequences she has to deal with. The story shifts focus.
Right.
And in Ernst and the Light, you have Ernst convincing Jesus not to return after first acknowledging him. It completely flips their dynamic and the whole premise of the film. These moments are designed to surprise us, re-engage us.
So from that midpoint, the conflict keeps developing. Rising in waves, maybe? Temporary fixes that don't last?
Yeah, often you see that. Little peaks and valleys. Plots are strengthened by having both positive things happen for the protagonist and negative things. Keeps the audience guessing, keeps the tension building.
And foreshadowing comes in here too, hinting at what's coming.
Oh yeah, foreshadowing can be used incredibly effectively, especially setting up opposing characters or viewpoints subtly, like in Brooks Brothers, or even just showing Anna of Milan's reckless driving early on. You just know that's going to lead to trouble.
Planting those seeds.
Exactly, planting narrative seeds that will sprout later.
Okay, so everything builds towards the ending, the payoff. And in a short, that ending needs to land with real precision and impact. It's not just stopping, it's the ultimate resignation, right? What the whole thing was about.
Absolutely. It's the reason for the film.
And shorts, maybe more than features sometimes, seem to favor a final twist or a bit of irony or a really sharp character revelation, something that leaves you thinking.
They often do. That ending contains, typically, revelation, climax, and resolution. And revelation is key, is that striking disclosure of important info we didn't know.
Sheds light on motivations.
Yeah.
Backstory.
Often, it acts as a catalyst, but sometimes its biggest punch is saved for the very end.
So what does that crucial revelation look like in action? How does it work in a short?
Well, let's go back to life lessons. That final scene at Lionel's art show. It's a revelation for us, the audience. We see his pattern.
Using women for his art.
Exactly. His cyclical pattern. He might not even fully grasp it himself, but we see it clearly. His supposed love for Paulette. It was totally tied to his creative process. She was just the latest muse.
Ouch.
Yeah. Or an Anna of Milan. Her true materialistic self comes out during that car crash. She cares about the car, not the injured boy. Totally contradicts her earlier talk about wanting change. Action reveals truth. And then maybe the most famous example, occurrence at Owl Creek. That massive, shocking revelation at the end, for the audience only, that his entire escape
was a fantasy in his head while he was being hanged.
Right. Devastating. You see that kind of twist in features, too, like Jacob's Ladder. The power is often in the simplicity, the surprise, and showing it through action, not just telling us in a speech.
Okay, revelation leads to the climax, the peak emotional moment.
Where decisive action finally solves the plot problem. All that rising action has built to this point.
So the life lessons climax.
That's when Paulette, totally frustrated with her own art, with Lionel's inability to truly see her or care for her, finally snaps. She destroys her paintings, confronts him directly.
And his reaction.
He makes these desperate attempts to keep her, admits his selfishness, but then he drops that awful, revealing chippy comment that exposes him completely. His art is his true love. Everyone else, a tool, maybe a chippy.
So that's the peak.
Yeah.
And the resolution.
Follows immediately. Lionel's exhibition is a huge success.
Yeah.
And what does he do? He spots a new, young, unsuspecting assistant. And the cycle starts all over again. It proves Paulette's bitter observation earlier. She was a human sacrifice to his art. And that final moment, tying right back to the beginning, gives us the complete, chilling understanding of the film's theme.
Wow, okay. And there you have it. We've covered quite a bit how short films, despite being so brief, use these focused ideas, deep character motivations, want versus need.
Escalating conflict, powerful revelations.
To deliver these really impactful stories, it truly forces a writer to distill everything down to its most potent form, doesn't it?
It really does. And what's compelling here, I think, is remembering that the goal of any successful film, short or long, is ultimately to entertain, yes, but also to inform, move, maybe even inspire. Understanding these principles helps writers craft stories that don't just grab your curiosity, but really engage your emotions, leave a lasting impression.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. The next time you watch a short film, maybe one you find online or at a festival, try to look beyond just what happens. Consider how the filmmakers are making you feel things, why the characters do what they do, and maybe most importantly, what hidden truth is revealed about them in those final crucial moments. What deeper meaning might be lurking just beneath the surface.